Welcome to the Sisterhood Collective podcast, where we empower women to break barriers, overcome limiting beliefs, and achieve true success. I'm your host, Laurie Drummond, entrepreneur and founder of 5 successful businesses. Join me as I share proven strategies, interview inspirational leaders, and provide behind-the-scenes insights to help you level up in your business, career, and in life. Because together, we can get further faster. Okay, let's dive in. So today we are going to be talking a little bit about reward culture. And the reason is I've got a good friend of mine here with me, Kylie, who you might remember from a previous podcast, and she's from the Hormone Hub. Reward culture, in just total basic terms for me, because I've done a bit of research for this, because I've always had this negative thought about this reward culture kind of thing. So I was looking it up, but let me just say in simple terms, it's the system of incentives and recognition that we use to motivate and encourage, I think, a specific behavior and certain achievements. And it involves giving rewards, things like praise, bonuses, and other benefits to individuals or staff or children or groups that acknowledges and reinforces that positive action and also a performance. And so I thought it was quite important to talk about today because it fundamentally shapes how we motivate behavior and achieve goals. And when you've got business, when you've got children, and when you're operating in this busy world, I think it's interesting to see what motivates other people and how we can use that, whether to our advantage or just have that awareness about it. So I think it's important to understand and implement an effective reward culture because it directly impacts motivation, also productivity, and I think overall personal satisfaction. And also personal development, reward helps us set up goals that we can achieve, which when we can achieve those goals, we maintain, again, motivation, and we foster a sense of progress and self-worth. And so, Kylie, I wanted to ask you firstly, what's the quirkiest reward you've ever received?
One that I give myself, or it's a great question, actually. Think on that. I'm a Taurus, so I'm a big pleasure person. So whether that's food, whether that's wine, whether that's, some kind of indulgence would be a reward I would give myself. But then that question really threw me. I have to think about that. All right, can we come back to that?
Yeah, it's interesting though, isn't it? But now that we talk about it, I definitely do it to myself as well. Like I'm over here right now and I said, every time I do one of these projects, I'm like, what am I going to buy myself or do for myself after doing that?
Yeah, and I think it's really good that we do reward ourselves. And even if that is sort of acknowledging what we've accomplished, because I think when we're in business, we power forward, we do the things, we set goals, and then no sooner we achieve those goals and then we're on to the next one. So I think to actually stop, reflect, acknowledge what we've achieved, celebrate what we've achieved, I think is really important, because otherwise we're always sort of chasing the next thing and we're not getting that satisfaction, and that we're not recognizing the actual hard work that we just put in. We're just sort of like soldiering on to the next thing. And I know I can be guilty of that for sure. So I think that is important, is to stop, recognize, and reward yourself in a positive way. Where I see reward culture sort of having a negative effect is when we kind of get into that trap of, because I'm in that health space, so I'm sort of looking at it with a health lens. But when we're rewarding ourselves or we're self-medicating in a way that is not good for us. So if we are self-medicating, I've had a tough day, so therefore I need wine. Or I've been, really good with my food and now I'm starving and I need sugar. Or I've got my period, so I need chocolate. So I think it's being aware of those sort of negative behaviors if they're moving us away from a goal. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it doesn't. But as soon as you say those things, and obviously because I come from the health aspect of, in gyms and fitness, and I think they're all excuses.
Yeah. Excuses, yeah. Willpower, lack of willpower, maybe. Try and reframe it, because I think, there's such a big connotation of, we've failed. Like, if we don't sort of stick, we've got no willpower, so therefore we've failed. Whereas I actually genuinely see women using it as a coping mechanism. So it's just, I've had a really stressful day. I've come home, there's no food, my kids are being little shits, I've still got to do the things. So therefore I deserve a glass of wine, or therefore I've earned this, or, I've had a crappy day. So, I need that chocolate or those biscuits or whatever it is. Generally it's alcohol or sugar is what I see women going for. So I wouldn't sort of say it's a, lack of willpower, but it's just, that intrinsic, we're looking for that dopamine hit to just kind of like lift us up and make us feel better.
I like that where you say just rephrase it, because they are kind of excuses in a way. But if you can reframe the narrative, which is something I'm always talking about, because I think it's important to always reframe the narrative in a positive way.
Yeah, because if we're always down on ourselves, oh, I've failed again, I wasn't going to drink this week, and here I am drinking. Oh, I wasn't going to eat sugar, and here I am, I'm such a failure, I've got no willpower, I'm fat, I'm dumb, I'm blah 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 blah, like all of that negative talk. Whereas, yeah, if we flip it around and just go, that's my dopamine hit. Do I need my dopamine hit? I'm going to choose something else. So I talk about with my clients a lot, sort of using that scenario of had a tough day or I've had a busy week of, how else can we reward ourselves so that's a more positive behavior. So we're still getting that dopamine hit. Because we're comfort creatures, right? We like nice things. We like that dopamine hit. So if it's switching out a glass of wine, still have, for me, it's actually not the wine, it's the wine glass. My brain sees that wine glass and my brain goes, oh, that glass makes me feel good. So I can actually put whatever in that glass. Recently, I've been having mineral water with a scoop of magnesium powder in the wine glass while I cook dinner, and I actually love it. Because it tastes nice, it makes me feel nice, and I know it's not going to stop me sleeping and it's not going to make me feel foggy the next day. But just having something in a nice glass is enough for me to get that dopamine hit. Lighting a candle, buying yourself some flowers and having, flowers there, because I think, as women, who's running around buying us flowers? Certainly not in my house, anyone. So when I buy myself flowers, I buy it for myself and I put them in a prominent position in my lounge room where I can see them. And every time I look at those flowers, I feel nice. So I get that little hit of dopamine. I get that little reward, but it's just something I gave myself. And it's not sort of detracting me from, my goals.
So when you do that, you turn the candle on, you have that beautiful smell, or you have those gorgeous flowers, or even you take yourself off and do a spa day, or just a bit of quiet time walking along the beach even could be quite rewarding.
Yeah, absolutely.
Away from the family. Yeah. Why do you think that's so important? And how do we get to a point where we started rewarding ourselves?
From a food perspective, because I work with women and eating is a big hot topic, emotional eating comes up. And I think as babies, we cried and our mothers fed us. So for so many of us, food has been a comfort, right from the beginning, so it's sort of that intrinsic, we can eat when we're stressed, we can eat when we're happy, we can eat when we're bored, we can eat when we're lonely. And again, it's just looking for that reward, that little dopamine hit, whereas actually we're not hungry. So it's not a hunger that wants us to eat that food. It's not our taste buds. Our taste buds never tell us to go and have a chicken salad. Our taste buds tell us to go and have, something that's high in sugar or high in flavor or high in fat. Like that's what our taste buds drive us to. It comes from, just that intrinsic as, from when we were babies and when we were young, that reward with food. And for some people, it's drugs, it's alcohol, it's online shopping, it's gambling, it's, whatever it is. But generally, there's a dopamine hit sort of at the end of it. So it's actually that dopamine hit that we're looking for.
Well, because when I talk about reward culture too, we're looking primarily from a personal development side or personal aspect. There's also the business side and the family side as well, where, from a business side, it's driving employee engagement, enhancing their performance, reducing sort of turnover and things like that. And then from a family side, it's about extending into the next generation, or what I see is more modern parenting styles that encourages good behavior and academic success. And I see it very much over here in the UAE. But I also worry about some of the negative impacts, because it can create this over resilience to reward. Like, they're not doing it because they want the outcome. They're doing it because they want the reward. So that, they're not passing all their exams and university to become a doctor. They're doing it because they want certainly over here, they're doing it because they want the car bought for them by their dad, or they want $1,000 bonus that mum and dad are going to give them for passing university and things like that. I mean, it works, don't get me wrong. I mean, I did it too when a little carrot was dangled. I'm like, yes, but I wasn't necessarily doing it to pass the test. I was doing it because I wanted that specific reward.
Yeah, and I think to sort of have a look at and tap into, how is that reward going to make you feel? So when we get a thing, does that thing actually change our life? Like, does that car make us better people? Does that car make us more interesting? Does that car bring us more genuine connections and genuine friendships? Not necessarily. One thing that really irked me as kids, like, remember when we were kids, pass the parcel, and we're all sort of sitting there, we're all looking around at the kid who's unwrapping. Did they get a prize? Did they get a prize? And then at some point, every layer had a prize. So the kids were passing it around. They would unwrap a layer. Oh, look, I got a lolly, or I got a lollipop, or whatever it was. And then it just became like just such a boring game because everyone got a prize. And it's a bit like, at the end of a sports season. I'm terrible at this. Like, I joked about it with my husband all the time. It's like, oh, everyone gets a prize, and it sort of takes out that, I guess, that individual striving to be better, or and work a bit harder. And I think that intrinsic motivation, doing something because you really want to achieve that, rather than just putting in a half-hearted effort knowing that you're going to get a prize anyway. I think we've sort of lost a bit of that. And I think tapping into, actually that feeling of accomplishment, because we've put the work in and we've got the result. And also, I think being proud of the work you put in, even if you didn't get the result as well.
So there's a time for intrinsic motivation, and then there's a time for extrinsic motivation.
Yeah, and I think hands down, intrinsic motivation every time is,
more positive.
Yeah, definitely. And more long lasting too, I think. So it's nice to get that. Yeah, I'm sure I would love someone to give me a car. But, where are you 6 months down the track? Are you still as excited about the car as you were when you first got the car? Whereas I think when you've worked hard, and I don't like using the word hard, but when you've worked towards that goal and then you've achieved it, I think that feeling holds a lot longer and is a lot stronger than just something that's handed to you.
Because I knew I was going to be talking to you about reward culture today, I was talking to a few friends and I was trying to get their take on it a little bit too. And one of them was talking a little bit about, and I'm going back to the family dynamic here, but I was talking a little bit about, I guess, history as well. Women are now working a lot more, and they're away from the family unit and the children more. And when that happens, what I see a lot is that they feel this mum guilt, which they shouldn't,
Yeah.
but of course they do. And so they're rewarding because they're feeling guilty, not for a certain behavior or accomplishment.
Yeah. And if I'm going to be perfectly honest, what happens then, and it's the same with, everyone gets a prize, then, you kind of like then breeding a culture of entitlement because, oh, mum's been working, so therefore I deserve this, so you're kind of perpetuating that cycle as well. And, I see that a lot in, well, hopefully not my kids, but sometimes, yeah, in my own children, and certainly in their friend circle. These kids have always had the best of everything, and there's definitely a sense of entitlement there. I see it in the job market as well. People who sort of don't necessarily have the qualifications or the experience, but they have this belief that they should be paid all this money and are worth more. But it's sort of like, well, actually, what are you bringing to the table?
I had someone once, he had finished up his job and it was a specific trade of sorts, but was coming to me to work in my business, but it was in an administrative role. And so when I put a package together, the pay rate was of an administrational rate. And he said, but I'm worth, let's go $20 more than the rate I was offering. I'm worth this much. And I said, you are worth that much in that trade, that role, in an organization that's utilizing you for those specific skills. But I'm not using you for those particular skills. It's completely different. And he didn't take the role, and that's fair. It's 100% fair, but in his mind, he was worth more. And I think we all underestimate how much our true worth is, but we've got to look at reality as well and think, if I'm not using a skill that I've, trained for, and I mean, Australia sets the standards for pay anyway for specific skills. So that's the easy part for us, but it's not, sometimes that's not enough. It's our own minds and what we think we deserve versus reality.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I've had exactly that same scenario in my business where, yeah, I've had someone who's well overqualified for the position that I've been advertising, and then they come in with that pay expectation of what they're qualified for, and it's like, well, that's not the job that I'm offering. So reconciling the two is sometimes interesting.
And also sometimes it's okay to take a small step backwards or just get a foot in the door to learn before you can, level up, which I think a lot of people are afraid of doing because they think there's a negative connotation behind going into a job that's below the level of which you've operated at before. Whereas I think sometimes it's good going in at the ground level and learning a whole new business from other people. And if you don't like it, you'll step outside and go somewhere else. But you could grow with that business and develop these, better skills. Because it's interesting, there's so many kids these days. I say kids, I feel like I'm still a kid, but I say kids that are starting up these new businesses, and they're so skilled that even though I might be older than the kid, that is starting up their business, I've still got so much to learn from them and can learn.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, in terms of, so working on that online sort of space, I look at the, let's call them kids, doing the, social media reels and, all of the great marketing, like fantastic marketing. And yeah, it's certainly a skill set that I struggle with. And, and it's sort of like hard to convey my experience on social media when I'm up with a really fun reel. but also too, that's just not who I am. So I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to compete with that. So I'll, happily let them, take that because that's their strength as well. So I think, that's sort of recognizing strengths, and playing on those strengths, and then certainly getting rewarded for those strengths, I think is a good thing.
So I'm enjoying this conversation because I really wanted to bring reward culture and the awareness of it and how to utilize it, I guess, in a positive manner so that we're not getting negative benefits out of it. Because here at the Sisterhood and both with your hormone hub and your clients. We're always trying to get people to improve their life just that little bit better and make sure that they're not spiraling into bad habits of sorts, whether it's mindset or even, from a food perspective or health perspective. So what do you think is, I guess, a way that we can use reward culture and be aware of it in a positive manner that can benefit us?
I think when you're clear on your goals and what you want to achieve, then I think you can, and it's 100% awareness. So and that mindfulness as well. So for example, if you've got a health goal that you want to get fitter and you want to, let's use the old chestnut of let's lose, you want to lose weight. So if you've got weight loss and fitness as a goal, it's that awareness along the way of, am I working towards my goal? You've had a busy day, you've come home, you're going for the wine, and it's just catching yourself in that moment, just going, hang on a sec, why am I going for a wine? Is that going to help me towards my fitness? Is that going to help me lose weight? So it's just that. But rather than just relying then on willpower to go, oh, okay, I've got to, can't have the wine, I've got to be good. That doesn't last. But it's then giving yourself a reward to go, you know what? I'm going to have, or delaying that reward. So, you know what? I'm going to have a glass of wine on Saturday night after I've been for a big run on Saturday morning, for instance. So it's catching yourself, it's being mindful, and can you delay the reward or can you change the reward? So when we're looking for like a little pick-me-up, is it in line with my goals or can I delay it?
Yeah, I think that's a better way to look at it. It's the reward itself, I think, that is where we can sometimes overdo it.
Yeah, exactly. And the rewards can be little things, acknowledging yourself. Gee, I had a great gym workout today. High five me. So rather than just jumping in the car with your sweaty gym gear, whizzing home for a shower, and then you're on to the next thing, just go, I'm really proud of myself. I wouldn't have done that 2 weeks ago, or I wouldn't have done that a year ago. So it's acknowledging where you're at. Sometimes is just as much a reward as going for that tangible reward.
One of the things we practice at the Sisterhood is in both our lounge room and in our growth room is that every week we recognize the small wins we've had. And I feel like that's a really good place to recognize some of the wins that you may have had that week. And it could be as much as putting it down in the post that we have each week and having the people go, well done, Kylie, that's amazing that you've done that. And it could have just been the fact that you got out 3 times and went for a walk, or it could be that you didn't have a glass of wine at the end of each day this week because you're starting to break that habit.
And it's not about being perfect either. So we don't have to be perfect to get the reward. And sometimes, and with a lot of my clients, we look at, that consistency. It's just like, hey, I did that behavior and I did it all week, and that's better than it would have been before. So just being consistent and being mindful of what you're choosing, I think, is a big one. So you get to choose everything that you do. So you get to choose the positive thing, or you get to choose, the self-sabotaging thing. So it's being aware, and then choosing and then acknowledging, hey, you did a good job. Or, hey, I stuffed up, but that's okay. I'm going to learn from that. And I don't feel good because that, the negative thing happened. I don't feel that good. So I'm going to choose something else next time. So I think it's, that awareness of the positive and the negative too.
And I think when you can recognize these small wins as well, it boosts, like there's these other positive behaviors that occur from those positive behavior that doesn't have to be necessarily some sort of an extrinsic reward, right? Internally, we're also getting that boosted self-esteem and confidence when you do something good. You feel, well, one, you feel proud of yourself too, but you've had the confidence then to go on and either do it again, do more, do it at a higher level.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's it. It's just, and that it sort of, you build on that as well. It's sort of,
Creates momentum.
that. Yeah.
Yes.
That's the word we're looking for.
Momentum.
Momentum. It's a great
That's true.
thing.
That is true. Okay, Kylie. So earlier I asked you what was the most quirkiest reward you've ever given yourself?
So last year, I had, sort of hit a few big goals in my business, and a girlfriend asked me if I would do the Larapinta track. There was, a group of 12 of them, and I was just like, no, can't do it, can't afford it. It's a week away from my family, just no, not an option. Then, a few months later, I hit a few more goals and someone had pulled out, and she called me again and she said, hey, we've got a spot. And I was like, yep, I'm in. So it was, it was so hard. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done because we had, we're out in the desert, but of course, you don't really think of the desert as being freezing cold and sleeting. But the week we were there, we had freezing cold and sleeting. So it was physically one of the hardest things I've done with a pack. And I'm not used to walking with the pack. I was away from my family for a week. And, to be honest, I didn't even think of them really. And then it was just being with other women for a whole week. And we laughed. And despite the hideous weather conditions, we had the best time. And I still think of that and, just what we accomplished on that walk, because none of us really are hikers, particularly when we have to carry our own pack and, things like that. So for all of us, it was just I think the physical challenge and, the fact that we had all done it. We had all left our families. We'd all left our jobs, businesses, husbands, partners, dogs, and we had gone and, done it for ourselves so we could hang out. And it was so nice. So that's probably the quirkiest reward I've ever given myself was a week's torture hiking in the sleet in the desert.
Now, I absolutely love that. And I could talk to you about being in the desert in winter and how bloody cold it is. But I love that you did that and you actually did take time out to yourself. And I think, being with like-minded people in general is super, super important. But tell me, did you have any guilt that came with that? And how did you deal with it?
Oh my God, yes. From the second I said yes, the guilt kicked in because we haven't had a family holiday in, a long time. But I kind of thought, you know what, I work bloody hard and, I haven't done anything for myself. And I think as women, we are naturally the people pleasers. So we make sure that everyone else is okay. We don't actually take that time for ourselves. And, I was just really upfront with my family and I said, oh, this is what I'm doing. I'm going. And, it was probably telling my my husband that I was out. And, he was actually really supportive, so it was the guilt that I put on myself. It wasn't guilt that he put on me, or it wasn't guilt that the kids put on me. It was a guilt I put on myself. So once I sort of like moved past that, and I did feel guilty when I came back. I didn't want to talk about it too much. I didn't want to not talk about it. I didn't want to have all the photos out, so it was a weird kind of thing. But yeah, I actually realized he was totally fine with it. And the kids couldn't care less because they got to do all the things that, they're not allowed to do.
Mum was away.
So, yeah. So everyone had a good time.
I don't think I've quite really understood what reward culture truly was. And so this conversation's really helped me get a little bit more clarity on it, but also look at it from a different perspective. And what I do like about it is that it's actually quite beneficial from a personal growth perspective, particularly if you acknowledge your efforts, because it boosts your motivation and it can also prevent burnout. And I like that. I like using it from a perspective of setting little goals and then achieving them and then giving yourself some sort of little incentive or reward that helps you gain some confidence and momentum, increase your productivity perhaps even, and then keep moving forward, because we're all about just what can we do in our life to improve it, even just that 1%, that 0.01% better each day. And that's what I love about it. And I guess to avoid the negative aspects of that, we need to balance our rewards with discipline by, I think, setting clear goals, and being quite, moderate with what we are rewarding ourselves with, I guess, but aligning that reward with our personal values. And then taking the time to reflect not only on the reward system or incentives that you're putting in place, but ensuring, one, that you're aligning with the life that you're wanting to design and create for yourself. And I think that's just one method that you can stay motivated and enjoy the journey of this personal development. So Kylie, thank you so much for joining me today. As we wrap up today's episode, it's clear to me that reward culture plays a significant role in shaping not just our behaviors, but also our motivation, and then our approach to challenges and, personal growth. And I think it's a powerful incentive for positive action, but it can also come with potential pitfalls that we need to be aware of, particularly when we overuse it or it's something that we purely rely on excessively. When we understand the nuances of reward culture, we need to create a balanced approach, I think, to nurture both the external rewards and the intrinsic motivations so that we can create this, healthy development and resilience and get this longer term success. Remember, I think the journey of personal growth, it's not just about the destination. We always say that. It's not just the destination. It's the lessons that we learn along the way. So thank you for joining me today. I look forward to speaking to you again soon. And thanks for tuning in. Thank you for joining us on the Sisterhood Collective podcast. Remember to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. And if you want to be the first to hear what is new at Sisterhood Collective, you can find out more on our Instagram, or you can sign up to receive our weekly newsletter and let the good times continue to roll. Now it's time to turn your clear vision into bold action. I'm Laurie Drummond, your host, and until next time, keep striving to live that best life. Take care, and we'll see you soon.